Hello.
Perfect. So, Anna, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing good as well. You know, what better way to finish the week with someone as epic as you? You know what I mean?
My goodness.
Totally. Well, what can I say? Welcome to the show. As I said, it is so cool and awesome to have you here. And, you know, jumping to the interview and, starting with the questions. Tell me how your journey through music started.
Yeah, so it started a couple years ago. I'd say when I was around 14 years old.
Okay.
I come from a very musical family, and my brother actually had a CD release party a couple years back. And he invited me to just play one song on stage in front of everybody to kind of open the night. And I had never sung in front of anybody before. And I sang this Irish lullaby song. And after that night, I was like, I'm liking this.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got started. My mom is very musical. She used to be in a band. And I grew up watching her, and, you know, nobody could really watch us when we were younger. And so we'd go to all of her performances and stuff like that. And that's kind of where it started for me.
I love it. Well, by the way, in the background, those dog noises, I live with 3 dogs, so it's, I mean, I hope it's not a problem, but you know how difficult
Oh,
it is
no, it's fine.
remain them quiet. But anyway, right. So that is really cool. And you know, like, one of the cool things that that gets my attention is that whenever you find something you love, instantly you just feel it. You know, you just like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life. You know, it is so interesting that sometimes whenever you even in that, whenever you try really hard to find something you love, it just never happens. And when the moment you least expect it, you're like, huh, interesting, you know?
Right. Totally agree with that completely.
I love it. And what were some of the challenges that you had? You know what? Let me just make sure what is going on here with my dogs, because their barking is killing me. So just give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you. You know, it turns out that there's this lousy neighbor who always, like, you know, wants to walk by, and my dogs, whenever someone,
And then all the dogs are just like,
whenever
nah,
someone gets
let's
near
get
the
it.
house, they will start barking. But anyway, so getting back with the questions, you tell me, like, what were some of the challenges that you had when you recently started with your whole music career?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So for me, and I think for like a lot of women, I struggled a lot with like the idea of perfectionism.
Okay.
That was something that I always, like, if it wasn't perfect, then it wasn't worth it. That was like the motto in my head ever since I was a little girl. You know, I grew up in a fantastic school, but it was really rigorous, and everybody was just trying to be at the top all the time. And I definitely fell into that category. And so over time, I know my creativity was really stifled by the idea of, if this isn't going to be the best thing in the entire world, then it's not worth it at all, which, as we know, is a complete lie, right? But in my young brain, I was like, this isn't worth it. And so that was something I had to really get over, that not everything needs to be a masterpiece.
Totally.
And in fact, you have to, you know, for instance, you might write 1,000 pieces, and maybe out of those 1,000 pieces, only 5 of those are something you're really comfortable with or you're really proud of. But those are 5. 5 is good, you know? And it's really not about the number. It's about what you're proud of, you know? And so that was a barrier for me of being like, you know what? I'm going to take that step to overcome this weird idea in my head that is completely, like, freezing me up, completely making me stop any type of creativity whatsoever. I actually remember when I was back in high school, you know, in like our grammar and like literature classes, we would have these simple prompts that we'd have to do. and it would be like fill in the blank and be creative to finish the sentence or something silly like that. You know, it would be like, you know, put in like your favorite, make it funny, you know. And whenever we get assignments like that, I specifically remember back in 8th grade getting one of those assignments and almost like having a panic attack and actually going out of class, running downstairs to the bathroom and just crying, because to me, I was going to have to read this out loud in front of my classmates. It wasn't going to be as good as the other people's. It wasn't going to make my teacher laugh. So what was even the point? And so I was in that mindset for a very, very long time, until I decided to, you know, write like 90 songs in 90 days. And this was something that I did a couple years back, but it really did change my life. And it changed my perspective on songwriting. And, you know, it eventually became something that was fun. Like, you don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. And that is a big thing that I was able to take away from repeatedly kind of pushing out mediocre things, but still being like, this is so fun for me. Yeah, it doesn't matter, you know? And so with that, kind of letting go of that perfectionistic idea, I had fun with the mediocre, which allowed me to eventually reach the potential that I didn't even know that I had. Yeah. So it gave me room and freedom to do that. So yeah.
And I do think that is like one of the problems, like in general. I mean, that you tend like you will work hard on something to make sure that it looks perfect, but once you realize, I mean, that is never gonna happen, you know. And then when you realize you're just like you just postpone it over and over, or just like working on something, but then you don't like it, and then you put something on top of it, and then another top, and then at the end you spend like 10-12 hours and you didn't do anything, you know. So I do think that sometimes it's okay, you know, you just need to make sure that, I mean, it's hard, of course, to be like, yeah, I don't quite like it, it's okay. No, but I would say that probably don't push yourself too much onto it, you know, because otherwise she's not gonna go anywhere, basically, you know. So
definitely. And you have to truly, like, I had to, because before the whole point was about the end result, right? Like, the end result was the main goal. And now for me, it's like, I'm enjoying all the mess ups. I'm enjoying and I wouldn't even consider the mess ups, honestly. It's just the process, right? There isn't really a right or a wrong. And once I learned to enjoy that, it didn't really matter as much. There wasn't as much pressure that I had placed on myself. So, yeah, I'm still in that process of overcoming those things. You know, there really isn't, and maybe this is a universal thing, but you know, it's a process, and I don't think anybody has reached the pinnacle of being able to completely not care about everything that they're working on, you know. But there's a spectrum, and there are levels, you know. And if you can get onto a level where you say to yourself, this is something that's freeing for my soul and not restrictive and not something that keeps me in a cage, then I think you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is true. And also because it can happen too that you I mean, I do agree. Sorry, I do agree that the biggest critic is yourself, right? And it happens to me sometimes, and I think to millions of people too, that whenever you're creating something, you are gonna be, you know, just like a little bit afraid or not sure. I mean, what if people don't like it? You know, what if they react negative in some way or something like that? And I do believe that sometimes, if you like it, just put it out. You know what I mean? Like, if you enjoy it, just put it out, and I'm sure that somebody's gonna enjoy it as well. If they don't enjoy it, that's fine. I think that is like the beauty of the internet, that there's a place for everybody, you know. So yeah,
completely.
Yeah. And talking about like a little bit of your performances, tell me, like, what are some of the things that you learned from like those first experiences, you know, like to basically, because I think we all have it, like whenever we're having like those first steps, we just tend to kind of learn from them, you know, to be like, okay, so instead of this, I'm gonna do this, so then I can have this, or, you know, like things like that. So for you, what were some of those things that you learned from those experiences?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is such a good question. Man, so I think for me, I had to quickly get over like, big like mistakes that I would make on stage.
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, those things will just haunt you for the rest of your life, and you'll just be thinking about them every time you go to bed. I remember this one particular performance that I had at my college a couple years ago. It doesn't haunt me, it just makes me laugh now, praise God. But I remember being in front of like a much larger audience than I had completely anticipated, and I hadn't been given a microphone, and my ukulele had like fallen off of my body, and I was getting like pity claps, and everything was just a complete mess. It was a complete wreck. And I had to sort of be like, okay, now I know how to like stand up for myself, right? So now I know like, okay, what's the worth that I set for myself as a musician? What is the respect that I feel I deserve? And you have to be the one to set those terms for yourself. You're the one. And so quickly I had to kind of come to terms with that, and also to just like let stuff roll off your back. You're gonna have those instances where you have crazy amounts of feedback from the amps, whatever it is. Totally. You're gonna have embarrassing moments. So that was something that I think I learned over the years. I also, one of the hardest things for me actually was less of singing in front of people, and the small talk in between was actually one of the most terrifying things for me, because, I got to a point where singing my songs, I was like, this is stuff I'm proud of. I'm ready to share it with the world. But then when it came to be like, oh, well, what's your take on this? What is the pieces of information and stories that you're only going to give to this particular audience, because this is a different location, this is a different vibe. And that was something that I had to kind of figure out too. And for the longest time, I wouldn't say anything in between my songs. And I would just be like, I'm only comfortable with singing, and that's it, Yeah. And then over time, I realized that my favorite musicians that I would see live, like locally in Dayton, they would just be talking about their day. They would be talking to us like we were their friends, like we had known each other for years. Yeah. And it was weird. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't mechanical. And I kind of had to take a piece out of that pie that they had, because, it's a conversation. I'm not like singing at you, I'm not talking at you. This is a dialogue. And even though you're not the crowd isn't usually speaking at you at the same time that you're singing, they're giving you feedback through their facial expressions, through how they express and how they move while you're singing with them, and so that was something that like talking and being personable, I think, is something I had to learn, because I was so good at that with just like my friends, as most people are, comfortable with people. But I had to learn that people just want to hear about just who you are. Like, it's not a big deal, We tend to blow up things in our head. And I think for me, and this is for everybody, you could trip on the sidewalk and you could think, oh, those 5 people over there, oh my gosh, they completely saw that, and now they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. Well, guess what? Those 5 people were thinking about how they tripped earlier that day, and that's the only thing that they're thinking about. So the mistakes that you make aren't as big typically as what you think they are in your head.
Yeah, so. That is true. That is totally true on that. That sometimes you just need to be you, I mean, I do understand on live performing that it can be challenging, and you start to ask yourself, like, what if the sound goes off, or what if lights go out and then I'm the only one in the middle there in front of stage while hundreds of people will be like whistling, or like booing or things like that. So yes, it can be challenging and super tough, and it can make you feel like miserable. But I do think that once you understand that it's not your fault, once you understand that screw it, I'm just here to have a good time, and if people don't like it, that's fine. If something happens, it had to happen, that's it. So I can understand that. Yeah.
That's the thing, is that what I've learned is that people can tell if you're having fun. Like,
Yeah.
they can tell. It's not really anything you can really fake. And so, if you do make a mistake, but if you look like, if you were truly feeling like you're just still just rolling with the punches, you're just happy to be there, it's really not that big of a deal. So you can't fake the genuineness in someone's face and the excitement that they have to be there. And so I had to be able to let that out and be like, I am happy to be here, so I'm going to show that freely, so
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, not anymore. It's more like a personal hobby now, but I used to perform DJ, like music and everything. I used to do that a lot. And I do remember that my first experiences, I was just like, there's gonna be like, they would pitch this idea that hundreds of people are gonna be there, and then I went there totally hyped, turned out that it was just like 20 people. You're like, you gotta be kidding me, or like things like that. But I do understand. I mean, back then, I was like, what, like 20? Like, I was like 20, 21. So, young and naive, I was just thinking like, oh, this sucks, things like that. And it happened to me a lot, that the sound was off, and people would be like, well, if you're a DJ, fix it. And then at first I was getting super nervous because I was like, I don't know how to do that. But of course, later on, once you understand that, whenever that happened, I would say, I'm not an audio technician, so you better find something to fix this up, because I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do, and I might mess things up. So find someone, or like if the lights go out or things like that. Now I remember, like, on the last performance that I had, they were just like, having fun, or even grab the microphone, or even like scream at people, like accidents happen, or like things like that. I mean, I do think that if you go all tense and all like worried and all like scared, people are gonna feel like this, and something bad is gonna happen, because I don't know why, like, whenever you feel like please nothing bad happens, something happens, right? So I do think that at the same time, you just need to, as we were saying, just lower your expectations and have fun. That's it. If you have fun, that's important. People instantly is gonna have fun, and that's it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's so interesting that I remember also when I started my podcast here at first, boy, if you see like the first interviews that I did, I was like sweating, like I was just constantly mixing up words, and it happened also, like on the first interviews. I interviewed this actress, and I'm a huge fan of her work, so I was just like shaking and like laughing, and like it was horrible. But then later on, I mean, once you start to do this more often, and you start to like understand more things and everything, then you're like, you know what, it just enjoy the moment, have
Yes.
stuff here and there, and that's it. Because otherwise, if you hate it, or if you feel nervous at some point, you're not gonna like it. What's the point of it,
So true.
Totally. But going back here, tell me, like, how you usually prepare before start performing. Do you have a like a so-called ritual, or like something you always do in order to kind of like your lucky charm for you to start performing?
Yeah. Ooh, man, that's a really good question. So this isn't something I've done for years or anything like that, but before very like big performances, I do have this particular prayer book that I have that has like a very specific prayer for performers right before they go on stage. And so I found that just in this prayer book that my brother got me for Christmas one year, and I was like, this is resonating with me. Yeah. And so I played at the Levitt in Dayton, Ohio a couple months back, and before going on there, I just flipped open that prayer book, and I was like, this is what I need right now. But in terms of just like kind of, my everyday performances that I do pretty regularly, I wouldn't say this is what I do beforehand, but definitely during the performance is a lot of times I'll find at least one person in the crowd who looks like they're really paying attention, and I'll make just eye contact with that person. And it makes it very personable and very genuine. And I noticed that like a lot of performers, and this works for so many people, will like usually close their eyes like while they're singing one of their songs.
Yeah.
For me, I keep my eyes wide open the whole entire time, and it's because I want to see you. I want to see how you're feeling, And so, kind of early on at the beginning of my set, if I can find one or two people out in the crowd who are looking like, this song is speaking to me, then I'll kind of like hone in on them and kind of make it a gift to them. You know, it's a gift to everybody, but to them, I'm like, they need this kind of more than other people do. And so that's something that I think goes a really long way. And even smiling at particular people, you know, I'll have like a lot of kids a lot of times come up to me and start dancing in front of me, and it's just so fun to see that happen, you know. Cool. But it's because they felt welcome, you know. And you know, if I kind of just had like a frown on my face or my eyes were completely closed, I doubt that would really happen, you know. So when you keep your eyes closed, you miss out on a lot of stuff when you're on stage, you know. And it's very interesting. So yeah, I typically will find, you know, one or two people and make that song a gift to them. So yeah,
I love it. And what are some of the things that you enjoyed the most when you were in the process of songwriting?
Oh, I enjoy the most, I would say, for me, when I can find a stream of lyrics that I know nobody has ever put together before.
Okay.
And you know, obviously that's a very like a subjective kind of statement, because I haven't heard every single song in the entire world, right? But when I put together, you know, a lyric that would only really come from my very particular experience that you wouldn't necessarily like hear on the radio or something like that, that is when, you know, my adrenaline just goes through the roof. That's when I'm like, oh, I gotta finish this, you know. I just sit down, hunker down, and just keep going, you know. I recently started songwriting a little bit about, you know, how the Old and New Testament connects together, and talking about just different like prophets and you know, different biblical themes and stuff. And to me, that's a very big part of my life. And I don't hear a lot of that on the radio. You know, I don't hear about, you know, covenants and all these random things and about, you know, the tradition that I grew up in terms of like Christianity and God. And so to me, when I find that, you know, that is something that just gets me going. So yeah. Like for instance, I wrote a song about, specifically for Good Friday, which is, you know, the death of Jesus on the cross. I wrote that last year. And I, you know, in all my years of like listening to music, I had never really heard a very particular song kind of giving a chronological order of how this stuff went, you know. You have these wide sweeping themes in a lot of songs, but I wanted something specific. And so when I was able to find the specifics or the details that people think are too messy to actually fit in a chorus, that's when I'm like, okay, I'll take up that job. I'll try to do that. And so that's what makes me really excited. So if that answered your question.
Absolutely. And tell me, where can we listen to some of your music?
Yeah, so right now I'm not on Spotify yet, but I will be hopefully later in the year. But people can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Anna Marie Music, on both platforms, Anna Marie Music. So that's where you can find updates of my upcoming shows, you know, clips of my originals and different covers. I've been recently trying to learn how to play the piano, the keys, and so if you want to see that you know, kind of messy progression, that's the place to find it.
I love it. And if you could describe your career, like your whole music career at this moment, but on a movie, TV show, even a book, a play, or a musical even, why not? What would be the title of it?
Whoa, man. So I'm going to break the rules a little bit. I think maybe less of a title, but of a kind of just a description. I would say for me right now, I would call it, or I would tell people that this is just the trailer. This is just a sneak peek. And I say that because I think people are going to see more of me. I know some people are shy about, you know, saying what they think they're worth or how their music means to them. But to me, I'm a proponent of be your own advocate. If you believe, like, you know, you have something to offer the world, then say it. And so to me, up until now, even though I've been playing music for several years, for 8 or 9 years, I've only just started to really find my style. Just started to say, okay, I'm an independent artist who is now figuring out the nuances of what I like to show people. And so this is just the trailer. And there's much more to come for me. You know, I'm an indie acoustic singer-songwriter, and you know, I pride myself on my lyricism, and being able to speak of not only just the drastic parts of life, but even the parts of life that are just super everyday. There's you know, I think there's beauty in the domestic, in the waking up and just the small things of life. And I think that needs to be put on display and celebrated a little bit more. So people are going to see more of that from me. And so far, people have really loved that. And so this is just the trailer.
There you go. There you go. Now, what about describing your career on a drink or even a meal? Which one would you choose?
Oh, man. Okay. So I asked somebody this question because I needed help with this, but somebody described my music as a Moscow Mule, which I haven't had this in a very long time.
Okay, yeah.
From what I can remember.
Yeah.
From what I can remember, it's like this gingery but sweet kind of, you know, drink that's really nice and fizzy and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I can get down with that. But if I were to describe it for myself, I would say maybe like hot apple cider. I don't know. I think that would be, you know, a lot of the lyrics in my songs, I want to bring warmth to people. You know, I want them to feel that they're being shown hospitality and that they're welcome in this space wherever they're at, wherever I'm singing, you know? So I think that's what I would describe for drink. For food though, I would say that I would describe my food as homemade chicken pot pie or homemade strawberry pie. Because whenever I make strawberry pie, I usually have like a lot of people around, and it's usually like a process, not just within myself, you know, but other people are helping out or other people are, you know, having some of it. So it has to do with community, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You're actually the third who said their career could be like a Moscow Mule. So that is so interesting.
Really?
Yeah. That's so cool.
So it's common then. It's a good drink, I guess.
Well, you know, the one that is common the most is wine. A lot of people would say wine. You know, like a glass of red wine. I think I have that. I think they have told me that like I think most of the time. I think. Yeah.
Has anybody like ever described their music as like hot chocolate or something like that?
Yes, they have. Yeah. They have told me from Moscow Mule to red wine to martini to margarita to you know, a glass
straight
of
vodka or whiskey or something.
Beer, even water, a glass of water. So,
water.
That was pretty interesting. But yeah. And my next question here is like what motivates you? You know, we all have those days in which we want to quit. You know, we think that it's been a waste of time. I mean, getting into all of these toxic thoughts, it's super easy, which I personally hate it, of course. But like, tell me, like, what gets you out of it? You know, what puts you back on your feet so you can continue on your journey, basically.
Yeah. I'm gonna answer that with first starting with like a short story. So I remember several years ago after I gave a talk about writing 90 songs in 90 days several years back. And after giving that talk, a woman that I knew came up to me and she said, because of the story that you shared about your experience, I'm gonna start drawing every single day. I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna continue doing that. You've inspired me to actually dive into the love that I once had that I've been too scared to continue to pursue. And it was funny because we were actually in like the hall of this theater at the place that I had just given the talk. So she had just opened up like her laptop and her sketchbook and had started doing it right then and there. Okay. And that really resonated with me. And it's moments like that where I can truly see not just an impact, but a tangible one.
Yeah.
I think seeing that in the flesh really makes a difference for me, you know? Obviously, we're not like entitled to see all the fruits of the things that we've done for other people, but it really does mean a lot when you're like, damn, like this person just started sketching again because of a simple song that I wrote. Like, I can't stop. I can't stop now, you know? And so I think that is what kind of gets me out of that funk of just remembering those tangible moments that people have shared with me. So
there you go. Yeah, I do agree on that. I agree on that. And like my last question here is, what can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, so for me in the future, you can expect an album and my music being on Spotify, hopefully by the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. And so, you know, eventually when I do get my music out, it'll be under the name Anna Marie Music. People can follow me on Spotify and the other platforms and stuff once they're out. But yeah, you can expect from me more keyboard, more piano, and a lot of my songwriting. You can expect from me more collaborations, especially with other people, kind of locally and in like Dayton and in Greater Dayton and other cities and stuff like that. And yeah, you can expect me to not stop, I guess. I'm just gonna keep going. So
there you go. I mean, at the end, what can I say? I mean, the fact that that is like one of the things that I love the most about people who follow their dreams. The fact that they're doing it, you know, as simple as it might sound, it is simple, but at the same time it's super hard. But the fact that you're doing it and you're making it happen and you're working hard to it, I mean, it is, of course. I mean, eventually, of course, it's gonna blow up and everybody's gonna know about what you do because it is awesome and it's really cool. And the fact that you're doing it by heart, you know, that makes it even better, you know, because we tend to see now, either with music or with acting as well, that some people, you know, might try to follow somebody else or try to copy somebody else, and that's fine, but until you lose your essence to try to become somebody else, I think that's when you are totally wrong. You should like totally regroup again and try to find yourself in order to do that. So the fact that you're doing it on your own and you are honest with your words, you're honest with what you do, you want to make people happy, like you have like a really cool message here that is really cool. And as I said, I'm super sure that eventually we're gonna hear you basically everywhere, you know, from continent to continent, from I don't know, from Japan to Mexico or
I hope so.
That is so cool. Keep doing what you do, and I'm super sure that eventually is gonna reach super high.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I want to thank those who are watching this right now. Thank you so much. Either if you're watching this later here on Instagram, or probably on YouTube, or listening it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow Anna Marie and all of social media. Only what I would say is for you to put pause, then go follow her, leave me likes. I mean, let's put hashtag Team Anna Marie because she's awesome, she's badass. And before I send you off, I need to send you properly with an epic send-off. If you have seen some of my episodes before, you know exactly what is about to happen. If not, then that's even better because I can surprise you. So let me just show you.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, good. I mean, at some point, I promise that we're gonna have live audience. You know how it goes. You know, we're still on the hustle. But in the meantime, thank you so much for making this happen. Keep killing it. Have an epic upcoming week. Keep doing what you do, and I'll see you in the next one.
God bless. Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Have a good one.
Bye.